Good evening, good people of the internet. It is March 12th, 2020 at 5:55 p.m. in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I am Serena Arlene Jones of Mercury Rising Astrology. And this is going to be today's astrology update. Bear with me, I'm rather new at making these videos and I may have different interruptions. It's going to be rather quick though. I'm going to try to keep it focused, although there is this problem that comes up every time I want to make an astrology video, in that there's just too many possible things to talk about and I kind of get paralyzed because I don't know which one to pick. But I'll try to stay focused. And of course, right now, what has everybody's attention in the world is coronavirus, COVID-19, and everything is being shut down worldwide. They shut down Disneyland, they shut down the NBA, they shut down college sports, they shut down local sports here in Clark County, Nevada for all the schools. They shut down all interstate and international travel for students, for things like their choir and music competitions and sports competitions. And in places like Italy, the whole entire country is locked down. And in Washington State, I know they just made it official that no events over 250 people are allowed. And they postponed Coachella, which I really thought wasn't going to happen. And really the underlying theme for all of this has been a sense of confusion, and everybody's got different numbers, everybody has different ideas, and this is unprecedented. Nothing like this has ever happened before. My opinions about it are not in with the mainstream and may piss some people off, which I feel like I'm going to have to get into while I'm talking about the astrology. But I am going to try to stay focused on just the astrology of it. So I'm going to share my screen now to bring up the solar fire animated chart. So the chart we're looking at right now is from February 16th at 3:33 a.m. And this is the minute that Mars entered Capricorn. And this is about the time that we can start seeing things heat up in the international news about coronavirus. It by no means was the beginning of any news about it. There had been news reporting on it for quite a while before that. I'm not sure exactly when the first news came out. I know that applicable to what I feel like most best illustrates the astrology of what is going on right now includes Mars's transit of Capricorn. And one kind of neat thing, it's not like any official or really deep method, but a neat thing that we can look at is the moment of a planetary ingress into a sign can be looked at as kind of a birth or a beginning. So we can cast a chart for that moment and get clues to maybe the themes of the transit just based on the chart of the moment that the planet ingressed to whatever sign. So in this case, Mars ingresses to Capricorn. Capricorn is a Saturn-ruled sign. Just as a side note, I am an eclectic Western tropical astrologer, but I pull on traditional methods. I use traditional rulerships. I use whole sign houses, but I still include the outer planets, and I include different schools of astrological thought in addition to traditional methodologies. And I'm by no means like an expert traditional astrologer, but I do know a little bit and I know my way around the chart. So Mars goes into Capricorn. Capricorn is a Saturn-ruled sign. Saturn is associated with themes of restriction, boundaries, authority, discipline, among many others, but those are some of the main themes. And so Mars goes into that sign, and it just so happens to be at the moment that, at least for me here on the west coast of the USA, the sign of Capricorn was also rising in the east. I'm going to turn on my annotation here. So this line over here, how can I make that clear? Hold on one sec. I feel like I should be able to make that spotlight. Is that what I want? Nope, that's not working. Okay, that's good enough. So that represents the eastern horizon, for those that you don't know. So that's the sign that was rising over the east at the moment that the chart is cast. And sorry, still trying to figure this out. Okay, so that means that the rising sign was ruled by Saturn too, Capricorn. So that gives, just basically really drives home the point that this is going to be a very Capricornian Mars transit, very Saturnian Mars transit, and with themes of restriction, boundaries, distancing, and authoritarian juju. So let's speed this up a few days though. I'm going to bring us up to current times, the current day. If we do that one day at a time, see the moon and the sun. So as of the 19th, the sun went into Pisces. And so now that means that the sun went from being ruled by Saturn, which was in a very happy place for Saturn. Saturn likes being in Capricorn. It's at home there, gets to be itself. But then the sun moved into Pisces, which we say is ruled by Jupiter, the sign of Pisces. So now we say that the planet of Jupiter is hosting the sun. And Jupiter is not happy in Capricorn. Jupiter will spend 1 year in each sign, and it went into Capricorn in late 2019 and will leave in late 2020. But while Jupiter is in Capricorn, it really doesn't like being there. It cannot spread its legs. It cannot be it cannot be itself. It becomes more restricted in its expression. And Jupiter is usually known as a planet that brings like blessing and expansion and jolly good times. But it can't really do that as much in Capricorn. So we have the sun in Pisces being hosted by Jupiter in Capricorn, where it is not comfortable and it is not happy. So that means that the sun's vitality in Pisces is going to be weakened. Now, not only is Jupiter in Capricorn and doesn't like being there, but it is now, as of Mars going into Capricorn, being surrounded by what was traditionally known as the malefics, Mars and Saturn. And we also now know about Pluto, and it's right there too. Pluto intensifies things at the very least. And so as of Mars going into Capricorn, Jupiter became surrounded by malefics. And when the sun went into Pisces, that kind of becomes extra felt, because now the sun is being affected in its expression by Jupiter's placement there. Now, the traditional rules of besiegement is when a planet is being aspected on both sides by the malefics. And this doesn't have to be conjunctions. It can be in other ways too, through other kinds of Ptolemaic aspects. But in this particular case, right now, Jupiter does not meet the traditional terms for besiegement, because the traditional terms for besiegement are pretty rare to be met. There can't be any intervening planets. That means that the besieged or possibly besieged planet cannot be making an aspect to like any other planets besides the malefics, or it's not technically besieged. So we don't actually have what I am pretty sure as the technical terms for besiegement being met until March 19th. And at that point, later in the evening on March 19th, when the sun passes its aspect, its sextile with Saturn, then there's no more mitigating factors helping Jupiter out. And I'm pretty sure it will technically meet the restrictions for being technically besieged, which it sounds as bad as it is. It's besieged on both ends, and its movement and expression is extremely limited. Now, so it's not technically, I'm pretty sure, being besieged until this 12-hour period spanning late March 19th to early March 20th, when it'll end when Mars passes Jupiter, and the aspect then begins to wane at about 5:30 in the morning on the 20th. Now, even though the technical terms for besiegement are not met until then, this whole month since Mars went into Capricorn in February, things are going crazy. So I think there's something to the fact, even though, here we are on March 12th, even though it's not technically meaning the technical traditional terms to be called being besieged, there's something to Jupiter being sandwiched in between Mars and Pluto and Saturn right now, and being the ruler hosting the sun in Pisces. And Jupiter, in some schools of astrology, can represent the people en masse, the collective. And Saturn is authority, governments. And Mars can be inflammation, cuts, burns, injuries, accidents, and infection of the lungs is by nature inflammatory. So it seems like the people are being besieged by Mars and Saturn, and they're being literally restricted, very restricted in their movements at the behest of the government and different state and local and international governments. And the good news is, though, is that I think this is all going to peak come the 19th. That is the day of Mars's conjunction to Jupiter, and the moon will come along and activate everything that day too in Capricorn, which will intensify it. And then that's the 17th that the moon comes along and intensifies things. So like the 17th, 18th, 19th, I feel like is going to be the peak of all this. And so yeah, through the 18th, the moon is joining everything there in Capricorn, activating it. It's a dark waning moon though, and that carries its own energy. That's an ending, kind of waning away energy for that particular juju. And then by the evening on the 18th, the moon leaves Capricorn, and then by the evening on the 19th, the sun leaves Pisces. And while Jupiter is still technically being besieged during that time, it's not the ruler of the sun anymore and not affecting the sun's expression. Mars becomes the host or ruler of the sun at that point, with the sun in Aries. And Mars likes being in Capricorn. So it's stronger. There's more vitality and energy and willfulness and drive and like health returns kind of feeling. But also within hours, so much happens really quick on the 19th and 20th. So we have the conjunction of Mars to Jupiter. We have the sun moving away from Pisces into Aries. And we have Saturn moving into Aquarius by, let's see, the 21st, the evening of the 21st. And that's going to be a big shift by itself too. So the sun moving into Aries, Saturn moving into Aquarius, Mars separating from Jupiter, still applying to Pluto. But that will be over by the end of the day too, I think on the 22nd. Yep. So Mars comes on strong with its aspects and conjunctions, and it wanes quick, its energy. And so by the 23rd, 24th, it's well on its way to separation. And then we have a new moon that perfects at about 2:30 on March 24th. And that new moon on March 24th, I think, is we're going to see a huge shift in this whole general vibe. It's going to start waning away on the 20th, peak on the 19th. And then by the 24th, we really get to starting over and maybe go back to some sense of normalcy. Being that it's an Aries, we can expect a greater sense of drive and willpower coming back to us, like I already said, and just greater energy, as opposed to Pisces season, which even without all those other factors, Pisces season isn't known for feeling a lot of get up and go in us. It can be a really dreamy, foggy, confused, altered states of consciousness, lethargic kind of time anyways. And which brings me to another point. In the midst of all this, I think that the besiegement of Jupiter is the real big deal, but in the midst of all of this, the sun has been conjunct Neptune here in Pisces, in the middle of Pisces. So for the last like 9 years, Neptune has been in Pisces. So every time we have the sun in Pisces, we have this extra double whopper sun Neptune Piscean energy, because Neptune is also in some astrological circles kind of seen as more of a malefic too, and can lead us to escapism, confusion, fogginess, really not kind of feeling lost. And if there's any addictions present, that's a risk factor for them being amplified. And the antidote to all that is your spiritual practice or imagination. So that's the kind of non-shadowy side of a Sun Neptune Pisces vibe. And that's how I've been getting through and coping is stories. I'm reading on audiobook a fiction story from Philip Pullman, who wrote His Dark Materials and The Golden Compass. I'm reading his new book, The Secret Commonwealth, which I think is so eerily kind of applicable to the kind of worldwide mood we see right now in its own way. And also I've been binging on Outlander, which I already read all those books a long time ago, but I've been putting off watching the series, and now has been a great time for that kind of escape into a fantasy world, along with just reading fiction books. Ideally, the whole of Pisces season, and especially Sun and Neptune conjunctions, we'd be spending that time in prayer and meditation and quietness and going slow and going inward, doing dream work, using our imagination, being creative. Dr. Seuss was a Pisces, for the record, that kind of nonsensical, very imaginative realm. So that peaked with the Sun Neptune conjunction. That peaked on the 8th, a few days ago. And now here we are at the 12th, almost 13th. Speed this up. And so now we have the Sun-Neptune conjunction is still very tight here at 18 and 22 Pisces, but it's separating. It's still there though. But like I said, it leaves Pisces on the 20th, and about that point, it actually is out of orb archetypally, based on the sun aspects being good for a 15-degree orb, and it's out of orb traditionally based on if a planet leaves the sign it was in making an aspect, it is no longer making the aspect, applying to the aspect, or in any way making the aspect. So yeah, March 20th, let's keep an eye out for that, and hopefully we see a shift. I know there's a lot of events that got canceled, which doesn't make any sense at all to me. I don't know why they just don't postpone things instead of canceling them altogether. I know for me, I'm very, very much looking forward to my OPA retreat, Organization for Professional Astrologers, in Zion in Utah at the end of April. And so far they're keeping it going, but there are speakers that need to come from Europe and different places around the world, like India. And with the travel bans, they'll be lifted with a 30-day travel ban that the US just put down on Europe. That should be up on April 11th. So I'm pretty sure those events at the end of April, if they have to do with any kind of worldwide international travel, or if that's a concern, everything should be fine by the end of April. And just gotta kind of roll with the punches until then. A favorite quote of mine that I've seen in these times that has helped to get me through, that I put on my Facebook wall, is, in the end, everything's going to be okay. And if it is not okay right now, it is not the end. So everything's going to be okay. And just remember, through all of this, we are on a gigantic, magnetic, crystal-filled rock careening through outer space around an enormous fireball that is only one of billions of said enormous fireballs in this galaxy, which is only one of billions of galaxies in this universe, which is one of only one universe out of billions and innumerable multiverses in the multiverse. And nothing really matters, and everything's going to be okay. Everybody's afraid of, oh, people are going to die. And I've been trying to, stay sane with the fact that everybody dies. Everybody dies, Bob. Everybody dies. It's the one guarantee we have. Let's not go around scurrying like scared little rats in the meantime to maybe save 1,000, 2,000, however many, 500,000 lives that maybe would have died in a month or two anyways, definitely would have died eventually. And 150,000 people die every single day. 53 million people die every single year. I'm your friendly neighborhood double Scorpio fire tiger, here to be the everybody dies fairy and rein everybody in with that, because it does seem really weird to me to shut down the whole entire world over saving a few lives. When 150,000 people die every day, what would be the big deal if another 10,000 a day died? Sorry, people really don't like to hear that, but just call me the someday we'll all be dead fairy. And let's try not to encourage keeping these travel bans up any longer than they have to be. And in the meantime, let's read some extra books and focus on the antidote to the Sun-Neptune stuff, which is your spiritual practice and your imagination. And also remember that when it comes to some things, like any of this, or say there's a very popular theory that I'm kind of, more evidence I see of it seem very possible, and at least a little plausible to me, is that it's all a cover up for the launch of the 5G 60 megahertz technology that causes very similar symptoms of oxygen deprivation and trouble breathing. But say it is the 5G, say they're frying us all to death with EMFs. I don't know, say it's a lab-made virus and it really is gonna, it was unleashed on everybody to kill a certain amount of people and see how many rights we'll give away and liberties we'll give away and see how long it takes us to beg the government to lock us all down. No matter what it is, all we can ever do, it always comes back to working on ourselves, to work on ourselves in mind, in body, and in spirit, to strengthen ourselves in mind, in body, and in spirit. That's all we can do, and that's all we need to do, and that's enough. And in the end, it's all going to be okay. And if it's not okay right now, it is not the end. All right. I love you guys. Thank you for listening. And this is the end of this astrology update. I hope to give you some more very soon.